If you're trying to inspire sympathy from millions of people who have to go out there every day and grind on their feet, not doing luxurious things, it's just not going to happen.
And a Jamie Lloyd production of Evita. I promise y'all don't need to be worrying about her career like that.
Because there's so many people that will view you as competition, or they'll make you feel not as good as you deserve to feel.
I just saw this video that was like, Rachel Zegler doesn't have a single movie role lined up after Snow.
They warned her quietly behind closed doors, but she didn't listen, and now she might have to pay the price.
Deserve to be paid for every hour that it is streamed online.
According to explosive new rumors coming out of Broadway, Rachel Zegler is facing a massive $5 million fine tied directly to her behavior on the set of Evita. Not because she quit, not because she walked away, but because of what insiders are calling ongoing on-set outbursts that allegedly triggered a hidden clause in her contract. That clause, it's designed to punish stars who damage a production's reputation, and sources say producers are now using it as a weapon. It's the kind of clause you only hear about when things go completely off the rails. And if what people are saying is true, Zegler may have just crossed the line.
And in the film industry, when you are an actor, when you sign one of these contracts in the entertainment industry, I think a lot of people on the outside think that, if you are somebody who, has a lot of publicity around you and your name is attached to a project, that means that you have a ton of control or a ton of intel, but usually that is not the case. As an actor, you don't get to dictate anything. You don't get to dictate if a film actually happens. You don't get to dictate when it is shot, how it is shot, if you can ever speak about it to the public. You are simply just there to show up and say your lines and look the way they want you to look. That is our job, and that was my job on this production. So again, that's really all I can say. Which honestly kind of seems like maybe this path that I'm taking right now is the path that Rachel Zegler should have taken instead of just running her mouth for the last 3 years.
This comes right after Rachel finally broke her silence about the Evita collapse, reportedly blaming the cast and claiming she was set up from the very beginning. But now it looks like the people behind the show are fighting back, and they're coming. Straight for her paycheck, a $5 million fine for words said, offstage. And the craziest part, her team isn't denying it. They're just saying no comment. But behind the scenes, it's total chaos. And what happens next could destroy everything she's built.
What you see with Zegler is really just a pretty common Gen Z mentality and approach to work. She believes that she should be able to express herself and speak her truth or whatever nonsense, regardless of the consequences to everybody else. In reality, you have a job. You're getting paid to do this job. You signed on the dotted line. You took on the role. And that job comes with certain basic responsibilities. And one of the most basic is the responsibility to control yourself and comport yourself a certain way publicly so that you don't harm the project, thereby harm all the hundreds of other people who are working on it.
When Rachel Zegler's alleged private messages leaked, the ones where she reportedly blamed the Evita cast for turning the production toxic, the internet lit up like wildfire. It wasn't just a statement. It was a declaration of war in those messages. She didn't hold back. She supposedly said she was set up, that the people around her never wanted her there, and that she was made to feel like an outsider every single day of rehearsal. It was emotional, raw, and clearly not meant for public eyes. But once they got out, there was no going back.
There and you're trying to do your best. You've worked on this part. You spend hours and hours on end trying to get this character just down right for your big audition. And then if you have a producer or casting director sitting there and then eating the food in front of you, yeah, it can be very annoying. Personally, I've never had that experience.
Fans immediately split. Some defended her, saying she was finally standing up for herself. But others, they saw it as yet another example of Rachel deflecting blame and throwing people under the bus when things didn't go her way. And the cast silent. Not a single public response. No one stepped in to confirm or deny the story Nova Kits. Nothing. Just a wall of quiet that made the whole thing feel even darker. But behind that silence, something was brewing.
Is this because of Snow White, or is this because of something else? Like, y'all just want to jump on another woman's hate train? This is actually looking pretty familiar. Kind of reminds me of another woman that had a hate campaign. But that's for a different video. But yeah, I won't sit back and let another hate train on another woman continue.
According to news sources close to the production, the leaked messages weren't just embarrassing, they were the final straw. Apparently, tensions had already been running high. There were whispers of missed rehearsals, passive-aggressive behavior, and private complaints filed by crew members. And now insiders claim the producers are done playing nice. They've allegedly pulled out the contract, found a clause, and are preparing to use it.
Rachel Zegler is very upset with all of us over the reaction we've had. You can tell this because she's speaking in riddles. Check it out.
And to everyone who hates when I win, the winged victory came to the Louvre in pieces, and people still line up to see her. And I can only hope that despite my flaws, and despite my cracks and my breaks, and there are many of them, that at every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
Oh, Rachel, I hate to break it to you because people did not actually line up to see you.
A clause that could hit Rachel Zegler where it hurts most, not her reputation, but her bank account. And if what they're planning is true, she could be on the hook for a multi-million-dollar penalty. But the craziest part, this might not even be about money. It might be about sending a message because what came next shocked even her closest fans.
The thing I love about this icon, Rachel Zegler, is the fact that she's just authentically herself. No matter what, she will call things out if things need to be called out, and she will have a strong stance on it, and I love her so much for that. She is just an absolute icon. I will forever be a Rachel Zegler stan till the day I die. Like, literally, if I'm probably gonna still stan her as well. I love this icon so much, such a powerhouse. Her singing, oh my god. Her acting, oh my god. Her in Evita, oh my god. Rachel, why do you do this to me? I don't have any money. And you're making me go to Evita. You are making me go to Evita because I want to see you. I want to see you being the powerhouse person you are. I love you so much, Rachel Zegler. I really, really do.
High-profile stars like Rachel Zegler don't sign basic contracts. They sign multi-layered agreements with clauses that most people never even hear about. Clauses built not just to protect the project, but to control the star. And according to New, leaks circling theater forums and industry gossip accounts, Rachel's contract for Evita allegedly contains something called a conduct and reputation clause. Basically, if she says or does anything on or off stage that could damage the production's image or cost it money, she pays. And that payment could be up to $5 million.
Rachel Zegler effect has begun. According to scooper Daniel RPK, Rachel Zegler has been recast in Paddington 3 due to strikes, but I have a sneaking suspicion the strikes are only a cop-out for the fact that she has had so much negative press. She is certainly one of the key reasons why the Snow White movie is absolutely doomed. She's probably one of the key reasons why the next Hunger Games movie is gonna totally flop. And now the folks that are making the third Paddington movie are probably just using the strikes as an excuse to make sure that she's recast. Because I think if they outwardly said, well, we recast her because she just ruins everything she touches, that might not be a good look from the studio. But my speculation is that is actually what's going on here.
That number isn't random. It's reportedly tied to production costs, advertising expenses, and a projected value of ticket sales, all of which could take a hit if a show's lead actress becomes the center of a public scandal. Sources say producers are now reviewing her contract in detail after weeks of leaks, backstage drama, and viral outrage. Not just because of what Rachel allegedly said, but because of how badly it's making the show look. Theaters don't survive on drama, they survive on ticket sales and Evita. It's already under fire. Fan sentiment is volatile. Behind-the-scenes footage is being dissected frame by frame. And the name Rachel Zegler is now more associated with chaos than with talent. Allegedly, the producers have consulted legal teams to determine whether her public behavior, including leaks, outbursts, and missed rehearsals, legally qualifies as a breach of her agreement. But here's where it gets messy. This kind of clause is rarely enforced. It's usually there as a scare tactic, a nuclear option just in case. But the fact that it's even being talked about publicly means something behind the scenes is spiraling out of control. And Rachel's camp, no den, no political questions, just more silence. Which only makes people wonder, is it true? Could one of Hollywood's most watched young stars really be staring down a $5 million fine all because she couldn't keep it together backstage? Or is this just the producers turning the screws, reminding her who really holds the power? Either way, one thing is clear. If they choose to pull the trigger on this clause, it could change everything. What exactly did Rachel Zegler do that pushed producers to allegedly consider activating a multi-million-dollar penalty? Clause, according to whispers from insiders, it wasn't just one moment, it was a pattern. Multiple sources from anonymous crew accounts to cast member friends leaking through fan pages claimed that Rachel's backstage behavior became increasingly difficult to manage as the Evita rehearsals wore on. One viral comment described her as emotionally volatile, saying she would go from withdrawn and silent to sudden bursts of frustration, especially when choreography or direction didn't go her way. Another insider claimed she had heated exchanges with vocal coaches and choreographers. Not full-blown shouting matches, but tense confrontations, the kind that made the room uncomfortable and the rest of the cast hesitant to speak up. Some say she would show up late or leave rehearsal early without explanation. Others alleged that she'd go completely quiet and refuse to engage with notes or feedback. A few even claimed she skipped key prep sessions entirely, forcing others to adjust around her absence. And then came the straw that reportedly broke it all. An unnamed crew member allegedly filed a formal complaint saying Rachel had snapped at them over a technical issue. During a late-night rehearsal, no one knows exactly what was said, but the complaint was reportedly documented and submitted to production leadership. From that moment, everything changed. That's when, according to insiders, the producers started talking. Lawyers. They pulled the contract, looked for the clause, and began calculating what could be enforced if the situation got worse. And all of this was before the leaks, before the messages where Rachel allegedly blamed the cast before the fans turned on her, before her silence broke and everything exploded. To the public, it seemed like Rachel had finally spoken out. But to the producers, it looked like escalation, a Sterone robe. And while Rachel has remained tight-lipped, insiders say producers have begun documenting everything, prepping to either scare her into silence or build a case strong enough to trigger that devastating clause. Because from their side, it's not just a drama anymore, it's about control. And the next move might be the boldest one yet. When the leak started, fans assumed Rachel Zegler was in charge of the narrative. But behind the scenes, insiders claimed something very different was happening. Because while Rachel was allegedly firing off private messages and blaming, the cast, the producers of Evita, were staying silent, strategically silent. They didn't release a statement. They didn't deny the rumors. They didn't defend the cast. Instead, they pulled out the paperwork. Sources close to the production now say the $5 million clause is being used not necessarily to collect, but to threaten to remind Rachel that her contract is a leash and they're holding the other end. This isn't just a punishment, it's a power move. By quietly allowing the clause to become public knowledge, producers have taken back control of the narrative without ever speaking a word. They're letting fear do the talking. Fear of financial ruin, fear of legal action, fear of being blacklisted as difficult to work with a death sentence. For any rising star, some believe this move was carefully timed. Why now? Why leak the contract clause after Rachel's blame game went public? Because allegedly producers had had enough. Enough of the behind-the-scenes tension. Enough of the PR nightmare. Enough of watching their production and its revenue spiral because of one headline after another. And this threat, it sends a message to everyone in the industry. Fall in line or we will bury you in paperwork. It's the kind of pressure that doesn't just quiet a star. It isolates them because now everyone else in the room knows exactly who's in charge, and it's not Rachel. She might have thought going public would flip the narrative. Instead, it may have triggered a response she can't undo. And now the question is, was this move by producers just a bluff? Or are they really about to drop a $5 million hammer as news of the alleged $5 million fine spread? Fans did what fans always do. They chose sides. And once again, the internet turned into a war zone. On one side, those who believe Rachel Zegler has finally pushed too far. Actions have consequences. One viral tweet read, "She's been acting like a diva for months. If the producers are hitting back good, that sentiment isn't rare. Ever since her Snow White comments." Zegler has become a magnet for criticism. Some say she's arrogant. Others say she's immature, but almost everyone agrees. Her media presence has been chaotic at best. Reddit threads blew up overnight. One user claimed, "She's tanking her own career in real time. I've never seen a self-destruct this fast." Another added, "This is what happens when you forget that Broadway isn't Hollywood. You don't get to act out and walk away clean." But not everyone was cheering. A growing number of fans, especially those who followed Zegler since her breakout role, believe this alleged fine is deeply unfair. She's being scapegoated. One fan posted on TikTok, "Why are they treating her like a criminal for being emotional? She's 22, she's under insane pressure." Others pointed out the silence from the producers. If this fine is real, why isn't anyone confirming it? Feels like they're leaking rumors to manipulate the press. Then came the comparisons. People started pointing to other stars, male actors who've had meltdowns, cursed out directors, or stormed off sets, and still kept working without million-dollar punishments. The debate has now shifted from Rachel's behavior to how young women in the spotlight are treated when they push back. Some say she brought this on herself. Others think she's being used as an example, publicly disciplined to keep everyone else quiet. Either way, the divide is getting wider, and Rachel, she's saying nothing. But if her silence continues, the speculation might only grow louder, because the next chapter in this story might not come from her. It might come from the courts. Let's be real. $5 million isn't just a slap on the wrist. It's a career-altering punishment. But is this fine actually enforceable, or is it all smoke and mirrors? Legal insiders weighing in on forums and fan podcasts are torn. Some say yes. If Rachel Zegler's contract includes a detailed conduct clause, producers could absolutely demand compensation if they can prove her actions cause reputational or financial harm, especially if they've documented behavior, staff complaints, or patterns of disruption. Others argue it's far more complicated. Enforcing a clause like this would require proof that her conduct directly impacted the show's performance, and that's a tough bar to clear in court. After all, Evita is still running, ticket sales are still being made, and Rachel is still showing up. That's why some experts believe this entire thing might be a scare tactic, a way for producers to remind Rachel who's in charge without actually dragging her through a public lawsuit. But here's the twist. It doesn't matter whether the fine is real or not. The fact that it's being talked about as if it is has already done the damage. In the court of public opinion, Rachel is now associated with on-set chaos, massive penalties, and a battle with her own employers. Whether she's fined or not, the story is out there. And when your name becomes a warning more than a headline, that's when careers start to crumble. Rachel Zegler may have survived the Snow White storm. She may have clawed her way into Broadway, but this could be the moment it all falls apart unless she makes her next move very, very carefully. So here we are. After weeks of silence after the implosion of one of the most hyped stage revivals in recent memory, Rachel Zegler has finally spoken. Not in a formal statement, not in a heartfelt video, but through shadows, through leaks, through rumors so loud they no longer feel like rumors. And what's most striking, she didn't say, "I'm sorry." She said, "They did this to me." That's not an apology, that's a pivot, a spin, a choice. And now the question isn't just what went wrong with Evita. The question is much bigger. It's about Rachel Zegler herself. Is she taking ownership of her collapse? Or is she doing everything she can to rewrite the ending? Let's look at the facts. The rehearsal drama confirmed by multiple backstage sources. Her conflicts with the cast whispered about for months before the leaks. The tension with the director. And vocal coach reportedly severe enough that some crew members threatened to walk off. And yet, in her version, the one now spreading across TikTok and Reddit, she's the one who was cornered, targeted, outnumbered, sabotaged. It's a powerful story. But it's also convenient because let's not forget Rachel Zegler has been here before. She made headlines during Snow White for criticizing the original story, mocking the prince character, and alienating the very fan base Disney was counting on. Instead of walking it back, she doubled down, calling her critics weird, misogynistic, and stuck in the past. Then there was the Shazam 2 debacle, where she publicly admitted she only took the role for the paycheck, sparking backlash from both fans and the studio. Again, no apology. Just a Twitter block, spree, and silence. Now with Evita, we're seeing the same playbook. Go quiet when the backlash begins. Let the narrative build until curiosity peaks. Leak a version of events where you're the misunderstood. 1. Reemerge as a survivor, not a participant. It's crisis control in 4 acts, but it's also starting to look like a pattern. Because while the media stories shift, one thing stays constant. It's never Rachel's fault. To her supporters, this is strength. They say she's been held to impossible standards, that she's a young Latina actress navigating a hostile industry, that people want to see her fail because she's outspoken, unapologetic, and refuses to conform. And let's be clear, that's not a baseless claim. Hollywood is brutal. Young women are held to standards their male peers never face, and the theater world even more cutthroat, especially for outsiders not trained in the traditional mold. So maybe Rachel was pushed into a corner. Maybe the set really was toxic. Maybe her cries for help were ignored until it all boiled over. But even if all of that is true, there's still a difference between explaining your side and blaming everyone else. Because the reality is, Evita didn't collapse in a vacuum. It took dozens of people to mount that show. From choreographers to lighting techs, vocal coaches to ensemble dancers, they were all in the trenches. And when the production imploded, it wasn't just Rachel who walked away. Bruised, it was everyone. So the leaks, the subtle attacks, the narrative spin, they may earn Rachel's sympathy in some circles, but they're alienating others. People who worked alongside her. People who see these anonymous leaks as veiled shots. People who feel thrown under the bus just so a star can save her brand. That's the danger of playing the victim too often. Eventually, even your fans start asking, okay, but what's your role in all this? And maybe that's the moment we're in now, because Rachel Zegler's career isn't over. Not even close. She's talented, ambitious, and undeniably captivating, but talent without humility, that's a hard sell. And if this really is her final play in the Evita saga to rewrite the story, shift the blame and walk away clean, she better be ready for the fallout. Because Hollywood may love a comeback, but it also remembers. And every burn bridge, every castmate slighted, every behind-the-scenes whisper, they don't just disappear. They build, they echo, they shape what happens next. So we end where we began. Is Rachel Zegler owning her story or just blaming her way out of it? Right now, the answer depends on who you ask. Some say she's reclaiming the narrative. Others say she's deflecting, dodging and digging a deeper hole. But one thing's for sure, this isn't the end. It's the prologue to whatever comes next. And if you're following this story, you won't want to miss what's around the corner. Subscribe, because this saga, it's just getting started.